Good morning, everyone. I'm actually not your welcomer. That'll be Lindsay's job. But I wanted to just announce, for those of you who, for whatever reasons, don't read the messenger, haven't read the messenger, don't do email, Reverend Michael gave us his resignation this week. He will be retiring the end of June. And we're very excited for him. He has plans, he's got new things to do, and we think this is a really positive thing for all of us, for him in his new adventure, and for us as a congregation. We have a lot of things that are in the irons that are in the fire, and we're really excited. We're grateful, we're hopeful, we're energized. And I think for all of us concerned, this is going to be a wonderful next crazy few months as we travel down this road. So we're excited. So thank you, and here's Lindsay.
Well, good morning. Look at all those shiny faces. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday service of the Keene Unitarian Universalist Church, or KUUC, as many of us call it. We are proud to be a green sanctuary and welcoming congregation. My name is Lindsay Bartlett, and I've been a member friend of this church for many years, maybe almost 20, and before that, the Walpole Unitarian Church. And I wear many hats, and I am a wear many hat person, and I love it. Right now, I'm chair of the worship committee. If anybody wants some more information about that, please do come see me afterwards. I also sing in the choir, and I take care of the pulpit outside. Did everybody see the Wayside pulpit today, by the way? It has a Fred Small quote on it. Our service today is called The Peace of Trees. We hope that you find spiritual sustenance in the service that proves useful in your daily life and provides fuel for your life's journey. For those of you wanting to learn more about KUUC, each week we appoint an ambassador, and today it is Betty. Betty, give us a wave. If you have any questions, Betty can help you with those. In fact, any of us can, especially if we're wearing a tag. Please do please do join us afterwards in the parish hall across the way there for conversation, coffee, and opportunity to meet our guest speaker. Also should let you know that we have a social action committee meeting happening today. Team. We have a social action team happening today. Do not get confused. It is not a committee. No. And please do silence your phones. We appreciate that. Even if you think you have, you might want to check. Next week, of course, is Easter. We hope that you will come and join us. So now I'm up to my favorite part of this. I'm sorry if I go on a little bit, but with this guest speaker, I've got to say a few things. So it is such a, what's the word? Honor, joy, many things to be introducing our guest speaker today. So Fred Small, and I'm leaving off the Rev on purpose, was my favorite folk singer back in my Boston area days. I rarely missed one of his local gigs, and I would play his music over and over and over. I think it was No Limit. Was that one of you? And that's when I first discovered the song that is actually in our Teal hymnal, Everything Possible, and we'll be hearing more about that later. So after moving to New Hampshire and attending KUUC for a few years and discovering that Reverend Fred Small had joined the ministry, I shared the hope with Reverend Michael that he would lead a service here. Well, the day has finally come, and I couldn't be more excited. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Fred, because I think that a lot of you would like to hear this information. Cited by Bill McKibben as one of the key figures in the religious environment surge, Reverend Fred Small is Minister for Climate Justice at Arlington Street Church, Boston. A Unitarian Universalist parish minister for nearly 2 decades, Fred is also a singer-songwriter and environmental lawyer. In 2015, he left parish ministry to devote his energies to organizing for environmental, racial, and social justice. Fred has studied with some of the wisest spiritual teachers of all our time, including Thich Nhat Hanh, John Philip Newell, Tara Brach, and so many more. In 2018, Fred earned a certificate in spiritual guidance from the Rose Center. A member of Spiritual Directors International, he leads workshops on spiritual support for climate engagement and offers one-on-one counseling, especially for climate anxiety and ecological grief. Educated at Yale and the University of Michigan, where he earned a BA in, what was your BA in? Do you remember?
At Yale, American Studies.
Okay, so American Studies, and then JD and MS in Natural Resources in 1978. Fred served as a staff attorney for the Conservation Law Foundation. In 1980, Fred left CLF to tour internationally as a folk singer and songwriter, releasing 7 albums over 2 decades on the Rounder, Flying Fish, and Aquiver labels. Pete Seeger calls him one of America's best songwriters. How about that? So, I am now going to introduce our prelude, which is, I have it. It's Enigma va Nimrod, if I pronounced that correctly, by Edward Elgar. All right. Thank you. So, John Walter, where are you? My apologies. I knew there was something I missed. Another stewardship moment. I heard that it's not too many moments, so we're okay.
Good morning. So, for those of you who heard Carol Hill and Tom Julius speak recently regarding stewardship at KUUC, you can understand that it's not going to be easy to match their passion for Unitarian Universalism and for KUUC in particular. It doesn't help me that Tom's participatory exercise last week confirmed to myself once again that I'm sign language impaired. But when I first tentatively stepped into the sanctuary in the early 1990s, long before internet was a thing, let alone live streaming of worship services, I really wasn't sure what I would find here. There was, of course, no UUA or KUUC website for me to check out, nor any readily available details about what Unitarian Universalism was. Just a vague reputation for being unique and open-minded. That first visit, to use a religious term that I'm not usually comfortable with, was a revelation. Needless to say, I found the spiritual home here that I was looking for, and a community that continues to inspire and comfort me. Those two things, a spiritual home and community that comforts and inspires, have been a constant, despite the many changes I have seen at KUUC these past 30-some years. And KUUC is at another inflection point, but given the talent and dedication of our congregation, I have no doubt that we will find our way forward. But your pledge, all of our pledges, will be a very important part of what we can aspire to do, particularly with regard to revitalizing our religious exploration program, which we all know represents the future of Unitarian Universalism. For those of you who are relatively new to KUUC, a pledge is a commitment to donate a specified amount of money to KUUC over the course of the next fiscal year, which runs from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. As with other UU congregations, pledged donations from KUUC's members and friends make up the vast majority of our annual budget, which will be created in April, debated in May, and voted upon in June during our annual meeting. Our ability to pay a minister and our fine staff, also to heat and maintain our beautiful historic building, depends on generous pledges. Now, I know this is where it can be uncomfortable for those of us who truly can't afford to pledge much, or maybe not even at all, but it shouldn't be. First of all, small pledges add up. And secondly, KUUC needs gifts of time and talent as much as it needs gifts of treasure. Some of us are able to give more of one than the other, and that's okay. You might even discover, as I have, that in donating your time, you unleash talents you didn't even know you had. It's too bad Bob Hill's not in the audience here because, unfortunately, despite his best efforts, I still can't wield a hammer or a drill very well. You know, that remains one of my talents that I don't have. But anyway, in closing, please give to this fine spiritual home and community as generously as you can in whatever ways you are best able to. Information regarding stewardship and how to pledge is available in packets at both entrances to the sanctuary. For those of you at home who may not have received a packet and would like one, or would simply like to specify an amount that they want to pledge to donate to KUUC in 2024 to 2025, please email office@kuuc.org. Pledge slips can be mailed to KUUC, placed in the offertory baskets, or given to me. Thank you.
Light, within all light, soul behind all souls, at the break of dawn, at the coming of day, we wait and watch. Your light within the morning light, your soul within the human soul, your presence beckoning to us from the heart of life. In the dawning of this day, let us know fresh shinings in our soul. In the growing colors of new beginning all around us, let us know the first lights of our heart. Great star of the morning, inner flame of the universe, let us be a color in this new dawning. It is a great honor and joy and privilege for me to be here this morning. And Lindsay, I thank you for your persistence in making it happen. Some of you may have noticed that I have a Band-Aid on my forehead, and lest you be distracted wondering, why does he have a Band-Aid on his forehead? I thought I should just say that I performed successfully an actual face plant at the top of my stairs this past week. And underneath this Band-Aid are 2 stitches that will be removed tomorrow, and that is all I need say, lest I venture into the realm of too much information. I now invite Andy Johnson to come forward to light the chalice. Or her surrogate. My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed. I have to cast my lot with those who, age after age, perversely, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world. Bright morning star arising, bright morning star arising, bright morning star arising, day's a breaking in my soul. This began as a beautiful, kind of sleepy Appalachian hymn. It's in our hymnal as bright morning stars, plural, arising. Bright morning stars arising. Then Court Dorsey, musician activist, took it to the Seabrook nuclear power protests decades ago and kicked it up a notch and turned it into a sort of movement anthem. And then I added some new verses because I'm a folk singer and that's what we do. Please rise in body or in spirit and join me in singing Bright Morning Star Arising. Bright morning star arising, bright morning star arising, bright morning star arising, day's a breaking in my soul. Bright morning star arising, day's a breaking in my soul. There's some wonderful harmonies to be found in this song, and I love what Pete Seeger used to say about harmony. He said, don't be afraid of harmony. Harmony is any note that your neighbor isn't singing. So just explore the harmonies if you feel like it. Bright morning star. Bright morning star arising, bright morning star arising, bright morning star arising, days a breaking in my soul. You are a singing congregation because not everybody actually tries the harmonies on the first invitation. Thank you for that. For justice and compassion, days are breaking in my soul. For justice and compassion, for justice and compassion, for justice and compassion, days are breaking in my soul. For peace in every nation, 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 days is a breaking in my soul for the healing of creation, for the healing of creation, for the healing of creation, for the healing of creation. Days a breaking in my soul for the future of our children, for the future of our children, for the future of our children, for the future of our children. Days a breaking in my soul. Last time, bright morning star. Bright morning star arising, bright morning star arising, bright morning star arising. Days a breaking in my soul. Beautiful singing. Have a seat. So I invite the children to come forward, or anyone feeling particularly young at heart this morning. You can come forward too if you like, for the Time for All Ages. Let's see how to do this. Okay, how about here? I want to be able to sing to you guys and also to the congregation, so I think this is the spot to do it at. No. Oh, you know, that's a great idea. Thank you. So I've been singing this song so long, I forgot that it is now a multimedia experience. So yeah, if you could, hold go through it at the pace of the song and hold the pictures up for everybody to see, that'd be awesome. Absolutely. Thank you. So sometimes the Time for All Ages is a story, and sometimes it's a conversation, and sometimes it's a song. And this is a song I wrote, over 40 years ago. I just tweaked the words a little bit a couple years back, but it's a song that it's easy to pick up the chorus. I will teach you the chorus, and I hope you'll sing with me when we get there. We have cleared off the table, the leftovers saved, washed the dishes and put them away. I have told you a story and tucked you in tight at the end of your knockabout day. As the moon sets its sails to carry you to sleep over the midnight sea, I will sing you a song no one sang to me. May it keep you good company. You can be anybody you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. You can be anybody you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. That's a lot of words, but I will feed them to you as much as I can, line by line, starting with, you can be anybody you want to be. Give it a try. You can be anybody you want to. You can love whomever. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country. You can travel any country where your heart, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself. You can live by yourself. You can gather friends. You can choose. You can choose one special one, and the only measure, and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. Some children grow up strong and bold, while some are quiet and kind. Some race on ahead, some take it slow, some go in their own way and time. Some women love women, some men love men, some leave every label behind. You can dream all the day, never reaching the end of everything possible you'll find. Don't be rattled by names, by taunts, by games, but seek out spirits true. If you give your friends the best part of yourself, they will give the same back to you. You can be anybody. You can be anybody you want to be. You can love. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself. You can live by yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one, and the only measure, and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. The love you leave behind when you're done. Thank you for singing, and we'll sing the children out now.
Well, that's off my bucket list. And it was worth it. So now it is time for our offering. And these are words by Reverend Michael Hall. So now is the time for our offering. And we ask that you give what you will. For the church that has meant so much to you. For the church that meant so much to those who came before you. And for the church that will mean so much to people you will never know. Give what you will, for you are a generous people. And hello, all you folks at home. I think you know the drill, but if you are interested in contributing, it's just KUUC.com. Is that right? .org. See, you just never know with me, right? And yes, so and if anybody wants more information about becoming a member, that's also over here. But our words for the offering today are, I don't remember if this is one that you wrote, Jane, Jane writes the most amazing, she's just amazing. So many amazing people in here. So today it's The Holy Boy by John Ireland. May your generosity of treasure be used for the good of all. Thank you. In your order of service, it's 568 is our responsive reading. And if you can read the first lines, I will read the italic parts. Thank you. Connections are made slowly, the Seven of Pentacles. Connections are made slowly. Sometimes they grow underground. Cannot always tell. More than half a tree is spread out in the soil under your feet. Fight persistently as the creeper that brings down the tree. Gnaw in the dark and use the sun to make sugar. Live a life you can endure. Make love that is loving. Live as if you like yourself, and it may happen. This is how we are going to live for a long time. Not always. Digging out. after the planting, and after the long season of tending and growth, the harvest comes.
I invite you to join in the spirit of prayer. Spirit of life, Holy One, essence and breath of all that is. Take my fear and let it become wonder. Take my grief and let it become compassion. Take my doubt and let it become courage. Take my self-centeredness and let it become love. Take my broken heart and let it become my strength. Amen. And blessed be. In silence, we descend deeper than words, centering down to the ground of being. During the silence, I invite you to pray or to meditate or to contemplate ultimate things. The tide is rising, and so are we. This is a climate justice anthem written by Rabbi Shoshana Meira Friedman and her husband Yotam Schachter. And it's a zipper song in the sense that just one line changes each verse. So once you got the first verse, you pretty much have the whole song. Please rise in body or in spirit and join me in The Tide is Rising. The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The tide is rising, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. Give it a try. The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The task is mighty, the task is mighty, and so are we. The task is mighty, and so are we. The task is mighty, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The land is holy, the land is holy, and so are we. The land is holy, and so are we. The land is holy, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called. The storm is raging, the storm is raging, and so are we. The storm is raging, and so are we. The storm is raging, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called. The sun is shining. The sun is shining. Sun is shining. Sun is shining. So are we. The sun is shining. So are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called. The world is ready. The world is ready, and so are we. 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 The world is ready, so are we. The world is ready, and so this is where we are called to be. This is where we are. Last time, the tide is rising. The tide is rising, tide is rising, tide is rising, so are we. The tide is rising, so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. Beautiful singing. Thank you. I'm so glad you left this little card up here. What do Unitarian Universalists believe? I've been wondering that for decades. Believe me, I know all the UU jokes, including some that I cannot say from the pulpit. I knew a man once who tried to save a tree. It was a magnificent red oak, planted sometime in the 19th century. Through numberless winters and springs and summers and autumns its roots had penetrated deep into the soil, and its trunk had grown tall and strong. Generations of families and friends and lovers had gathered gratefully in the shade of its broad canopy. And the man loved the tree and held it sacred. But the tree grew close to a building, and one day the owners of the building decreed that the building would be improved and expanded. The tree would have to be cut down, they said. And so the man who loved the tree wrote letters and social media posts to try and change their minds. He organized others and enrolled political leaders in his cause. Save the tree, they cried. The owners were unmoved. It's true, they said, the tree is old and beautiful, but it's actually not in very good health. It'll die soon anyway. Besides, they said, we have no choice. We've examined every alternative, and none is practical within our budget. The tree must go. Outraged, the man assailed their motives and their integrity. His letters and posts grew more acerbic and sarcastic. At last, his belligerence and ill temper drove away even people who also cared about the tree and might have helped to save it. And so the tree was cut down. And all who saw its severed limbs couldn't help noticing how healthy they looked. And the man cursed the owners for their stupidity and short-sightedness. This good man who loved trees so profoundly and so passionately had not learned from them. His feverish, frenetic activism was nothing at all like a tree. He championed the sacredness of trees while neglecting the sacredness of human beings, including his own. He knew the worth of trees, but not the peace of trees. Don't we all make the same mistake? At least some of the time. I know I do. More than half a century ago, the Trappist monk and peace activist Thomas Merton warned, there is a pervasive form of contemporary violence to which the idealist most easily succumbs. Activism and overwork. The rush and pressure of modern life are a form, perhaps the most common form, of its innate violence. To allow oneself to be carried away by a multitude of conflicting concerns, to surrender to too many demands, to commit oneself to too many projects, to want to help everyone in everything, is to succumb to violence. The frenzy of our activism, Merton said, neutralizes our work for peace. It destroys our own inner capacity for peace. It destroys the fruitfulness of our own work because it kills the root of inner wisdom, which makes work fruitful. The frenzy of our activism destroys our inner capacity for peace and the fruitfulness of our work. Hearing the familiar words, time, talent, and treasure, reminded me of the tension, the conundrum that I felt as a parish minister, because of course I wanted volunteers. I needed volunteers. Please, will you chair this? Not a committee, team. Can you help out with this, that, or the other thing? But as a pastor, I wanted to say, you need some rest. You need to take care of yourself. So it's both and. And there are seasons of contribution. Sometimes you're going to show up, and sometimes you're going to stay home and take a nap. God bless you. But actually, Thomas Merton was lucky. He died before Twitter. Twitter, now technically X. Twitter, that twilight zone of snark, contempt, occasional inspiration, and permanent outrage, where I, for one, have wasted far too much of my time. It's easy to be punitive and make others disposable. Caution Tom DeWolf and Jody Geddes in The Little Book of Racial Healing. The difficult task, they say, is in telling the truth in ways that seek healing and transformation. We are beset today by a host of daunting challenges, all of them urgent and interconnected, many seemingly intractable, from patriarchy to white supremacy, from public corruption to secret abuse, from anti-Semitism to Islamophobia to transphobia, from gun violence to armed insurrection to war, from mass incarceration to mass extinction. It is natural for us to feel grief, anger, fear, and despair. I'm a climate justice activist. Primarily, not exclusively, but primarily, I work in climate justice. Despair is my constant companion. By now, it's almost an old friend. Seems every new report coming from the scientists is even more depressing than the last. As Lily Tomlin once observed, things are going to get worse before they get worse. The realization that it's too late to prevent significant global warming, too late even to prevent vast suffering, has had a surprising effect upon me. Instead of making me more anxious and agitated, somehow it has calmed and steadied me. For decades, as a climate activist, I felt like I was in a rowboat above a thundering waterfall, rowing frantically to keep from going over the falls. Well, the boat is going over the falls. We are plummeting, tumbling, crashing into the unknown at vertiginous speed, and yet somehow at the same time in slow motion. Terrible things are happening. Terrible things will happen. Millions, I believe, will suffer and die, with the worst impacts upon those least responsible for the problem. People of color and people living in poverty all around the world. But it is never too late to save the next life, or the next community, or the next species. Never too late to feed the hungry or welcome the stranger. It's never too late to do the next right thing. I vow to do everything I can to reduce the suffering, to tend to the wounded, and to build a more just world. But since I believe it is too late to head off catastrophe, I am resolved to do these things mindfully, with love and compassion and tenderness and generosity of spirit. Because given the certainty of suffering, the how of what we do is as important as the what, or even the when. As we plunge headlong into the maelstrom, Even more important than the question, what am I going to do, is the question, who am I going to be? Our climate future is not binary, everything's going to be wonderful, no, everything's going to be awful, ecotopia, dystopia. The future will almost certainly have elements of both. And where the balance falls between them will depend upon an infinite number of choices, my choices and your choices and the choices of our children and their children and their children. We don't know what's gonna happen. I hope that the human species survives the crisis we have created, but whether or not we do, we know that life on Earth has already survived 5 major extinctions. Life will endure. And intelligent life will continue to evolve with luck and the grace of God, not only smarter, but also wiser, kinder, more compassionate. As we confront this crisis, Potawatomi botanist Robin Wall Kimmerer reminds us we don't have to figure out everything by ourselves. There are intelligences other than our own, teachers all around us. If we understood that, imagine how less lonely the world would be. So as we struggle to save our trees, what can we learn from them? Never thought of this before. First off, hydrate. Another thing we can learn is patience. When we're in mortal danger, patience can be hard to cultivate. Trees can help us. Trees take the long view. They have to. Many live hundreds, even thousands of years. Longevity counsels patience. By patience, explains Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron, we don't mean enduring, grin and bear it. In any situation, instead of reacting suddenly, we could chew it, smell it, look at it, and open ourselves to seeing what's there. The journey of patience, Chodron says, involves relaxing, opening to what's happening, experiencing a sense of wonder. To be patient means to slow down. We teach what we most need to learn given the speed at which I drove here from Cambridge this morning. On an exposed cliffside in the Canadian Great Lakes is a white cedar that's taken 155 years. 155 years to reach the towering height of 4 inches. That's taking it slow. Even when a tree is under threat, it responds slowly. When a caterpillar begins to chew on an oak leaf, it can take an hour before defensive compounds reach the leaf to repel the pest. The hectic pace of humans takes a toll on our activism, our relationships, and our souls. We can be peaceful in our fervor, insists Charles Eisenstein, and patient in our urgency. In a society hyped up on hyper-individualism, trees remind us of the interdependence of all beings, the 7th principle of Unitarian Universalism. Far from the solitaries trees can sometimes appear, they are deeply embedded and active in a community of interconnection, which forest ecologists sometimes playfully call the Wood Wide Web. And they are definitely .org. Whether by interlacing root systems, fungal networks, or release of chemical scents, trees warn each other of predators and harmful insects. They can even share nutrients with each other. According to ecologist and Tsimshian native Dr. Teresa Ryan, when a tree in a warming forest dies, it donates its carbon not to its own offspring, or even to others of the same species. It donates its carbon to the newest arrivals in the forest, those most likely to survive as temperatures increase. A bequest of generosity akin to altruism. Trees model for us the power of commitment, of choosing to be rooted in one place. Some of you have been rooted in this congregation for decades. I'm sure it wasn't always easy every moment of those decades, but you stayed. When a seed takes root, it makes a lifelong commitment to that very spot. There it must adapt or die. Now, our human commitments need not be absolute, but they call us to strive and to struggle to honor our relationships, our communities, and our principles. Commitment demands persistence. Trees persist through high winds, torrential rains, heavy snowstorms that bend their branches, and ice storms that break them. If you've ever seen a tree clinging to seemingly naked rock, its root tips stretching to every particle of soil, sucking in the tiniest droplet of moisture, you know what persistence looks like. Trees teach us to live with loss. Every fall, deciduous trees surrender their leaves to the forest floor, enriching the soil not only for themselves, but for all who share their ecosystem. And trees endure the deaths of their companions. From wind, fire, storm, disease, logging, and old age. Trees embody the perfection of imperfection. Admiring an old maple in Connecticut one time, I was struck by its sinuous beauty. Looking more deeply, I realized its beauty lay precisely in its irregularity, its imperfection. Had it been perfectly straight, perfectly uniform, perfectly symmetrical, it would have been grotesque. Only human beings make things that way. God knows better. Maybe I too could accept my imperfections, like the Band-Aid on my forehead, as a mark of beauty. We teach what we most need to learn. Now, when I spend time with trees, I sense their humility, their kindness, their love. Now, I used to think it anthropomorphic to ascribe human attributes to non-human beings, but I no longer think so. Actually, I think it's anthropocentric to think so. So there. We are all sentient beings. We know that plants feel pain and distress. Why shouldn't trees, in their own way, feel love? If you doubt that, I invite you to spend more time with trees, touching their bark, gazing up at their leaves, and just listening. This beautiful wooden pulpit used to be a tree. Thank you. Thank you, tree. Thank you. Trees have been among my wisest and most reliable teachers. As a child, Howard Thurman, who would grow up to become one of the great preachers of the 20th century and a spiritual advisor to Martin Luther King Jr. As a child, he discovered a unique relationship with an oak tree in his backyard in Daytona Beach. I could sit my back against its trunk, he remembered, and reach down in the quiet places of my spirit, take out my bruises and my joys, unfold them, and talk about them. I could talk aloud to the oak tree and know that I was understood. It too was part of my reality, like the woods, the night, the pounding surf, my earliest companions, giving me space. Today we need love more than ever. Climate and racial justice advocate Mary Anais Hagler confesses that love is what keeps her going. I don't mean any simple, sappy kind of love, she declares. I mean living, breathing, heart-beating love, wild love. This love is not a noun. She is an action verb. She can shoot stars into the sky. She can spark a movement. She can sustain a revolution. I love this beautiful, mysterious, complicated planet we get to call home. I love that nighttime symphony on steamy southern nights when the frogs croak and the crickets sing and the owls hunt. I love the delicate feel of honeysuckle petals and the warm, grainy earth and dewy grass on my bare feet. This love is strong enough to break through terror. She is hot enough to burn through anger and turn into fury. She can shake you out of your despair and propel you to the front of the battlefield. It's a love that can also, even in the teeth of these most insurmountable odds, give me hope. If I'm brave enough to accept it. As for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. But love never ends. I will let the trees have the last word. With the assistance of their friend and interpreter, the late poet Mary Oliver. Exactly. Technically, Unitarian Universalists don't have saints. But if we did, I'm sure Mary Oliver would be right there in the stained glass. When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, equally the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness I would almost say that they save me, and daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me the trees stir in their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches. And they call again. "It's simple," they say. "And you too have come into the world to do this." To go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine. Amen. And blessed be. Ain't you got a right? Ain't you got a right? Ain't you got a right to the tree of life? Ain't you got a right to the tree of life? This song written by Guy Carillon, inspired by the spirituality of the Carolina Sea Islands. Please rise in body or in spirit and sing this song with me. Ain't you got a right to the tree of life? Ain't you got a right? Ain't you got a right? Ain't you got a right to the tree of life? Ain't you got a right? 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 Ain't you got a right to the tree of life? So rocky the road, so rocky the road, so dangerous the journey, so dangerous the journey, but we got a right, but we got a right. Ain't you got a right to the tree of life? Ain't you got a right? 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 Ain't you got a right to the tree of life? We come from a distance. We come from a distance. We come from a distance, and we got a right, and we got a right. Ain't you got a right to the tree of life? Ain't you got a right? 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 Ain't you got a right to the tree of life? Our lives will be sweeter. Our lives will be sweeter. Our lives will be sweeter, 'cause we got a right. Ain't you got a right to the tree of life? Ain't you got a right? 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 Ain't you got a right to the tree of life? Now, before the pandemic, last time through, I'd say, reach out and join hands with the person next to you. Now, don't move and muscle, because here's the thing. Are we post-pandemic? I have no clue. But pandemic aside, you all get to choose if you want to hold hands with somebody, okay? So, if you prefer not to join hands with somebody for any reason whatsoever, don't do it. right? And if some hand-holding zealot runs up to you and says, "Oh, come on," say, "No, thank you. Fred said I could say no, and I'm saying no, thank you." All right? So everyone is in charge of their own hand-holding. But if you feel comfortable joining hands with the person next to you, now's the time. And we'll sing the chorus together. Ain't you got it right? 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 To the tree of life. Ain't you got it right? 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 To the tree of life. Beautiful singing. Amen. Okay, so I invite, not Andy, somebody. Dan. I invite Dan to come forward to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. I just realized I left out the reading by Joy Harjo, but the moment has passed. And we are coming to a time of the good words for our leave taking. These are by Stephanie Kaza. Let go of the place that holds. Let go of the place that flinches. Let go of the place that controls. Let go of the place that fears. Listen. The wind is breathing in the trees. Moving through the dark night, I practice courage, accepting the vastness of what I cannot see. Amen. And blessed be. Please remain seated for the postlet.